Welcome. This segment is gonna be short. Talk about classical music a little bit. It's kind of interesting because, in a way, sometimes I think for this channel, it's important I talk about it because to me, because to me, all music really naturally will be Venetian in nature. Classical music is music, so it could be Venetian in nature, but it has a lot of mercurial or aspects of Mercury to it, which makes it a lot different than regular music. So much so that when most people hear classical music, they think of rich people or elitist snobs just listening to music that's boring. Whether you think that or not, it's not really my concern. But in this channel being Neptunian in nature, if I did a video on hip hop, it's only fitting I do a video on classical music because I think classical music in general is very underappreciated. In today's society, classical music is not, it's really diminishing. It's not as popular. And I think part of that is because I just think people generally have a short attention span. Make no mistake about it. I know everybody has the TiVos now and Netflix and stuff like that and cable, which don't have commercials. But make no mistake about it. There was a reason why, back in the days, commercial, even now, if you're watching regular TV, a commercial will be 15 minutes. Because they understand. Every 15 minutes is a commercial. Because they understand. After 15 minutes, that person is not paying attention anymore. We have very short attention spans. And that's very sad because when you're learning, like when it comes time to learning real stuff, it's very hard to learn if you can only focus for 15 minutes, to be honest. Some people really 5 minutes. It's going down. And no much so that it's going down because if you compare classical music to, let's say, pop or hip-hop, R&B, mainstream music, for the most part, they will last 5 minutes, 6 minutes. Now, a classical joint could even last 30 seconds, but it could last like 2 hours. Let's be real. So, in a sense, not only does the person paying attention, but also the mind of the person creating it is on a much different level. When you compare the achievements of Mozart and Beethoven, which I have in the descriptions in this page, you will see comparing them to any artist of any genre at this point is embarrassing, to be honest. Some of these guys were writing music at 4 years old, to be honest. Like, it's not even close. It's a joke. And to be honest, to be fair, they were initiates. So, they kind of dabbled in the occult themselves. So some people may say it may not be fair even comparing them to a lot of other musicians. But I think sometimes when people make these assumptions about classical music, they're looking at it without really understanding the culture of it. It's a very powerful culture. In a lot of ways, sometimes when you're talking about music, it opens and literally, they call it the Mozart effect, where literally it has impact on your short-term memory. And, people debate whether it does increase your intelligence or not, but make no mistake about it, there's a reason why most people of a higher IQ like classical music. That's not by accident. Now, you could say it's culturally and maybe that's the reason why, but when you really pay attention and really understand, even musically, if you see an orchestra and you see 5 or 6 different instruments, the person has to write all those instruments in at the same time, right? At the same time, and it might last 2 hours. Well, you have other people now writing it, not even writing it, it's a machine really doing it, and it lasts 5 minutes, and we call them a genius. I'm not going to say they're not, but obviously they're a different type of genius than the geniuses that I'm describing now. So, in a sense, does it have to be your most does it have to be your most your favorite music? Probably not. But I do think people should appreciate it because in this channel, meaning that it's Neptunian in nature, this channel deals a lot with opening your mind to possibilities. That's what Neptune does. And a lot of ways, sometimes Venus stops at that. So if you're a rocker, you're gonna listen to rock. You're a hip hopper, you're gonna listen to hip hop. And then not only are you gonna listen to it, you're gonna dress like it. You're gonna talk like it. If you like whatever, jazz, even though jazz is kind of like classical music too, I have to admit, probably gonna talk about jazz in its own right another time. I have to admit, I actually might think jazz could match it, maybe even surpass it, but we're gonna go into that another time. But in my opinion, classical music being mercurial in nature is very important because we talk a lot about Neptune, but what really makes Neptune is when Venus merges with the other planetary, with the other six powers, particularly Mercury, and because Venus and Neptune are the same energy, the Neptune is just a higher form of it. So in a lot of ways, you need Mercury to take you there. Mercury is usually associated with science, logical things. So, a lot of geniuses like classical music, and that's why it's more mercurial than other types of musical forms. But understand why. Most people don't understand the cello, the violin, right? So when they're looking at classical music and they see all these different instruments together, a person who comes from that culture understands the skill that it will take to write all those instruments in at the same time, as it could be something that's going on for 2 hours. You put it a backdrop, it could be opera singing, it could be somebody singing over the track, even though in classical music vocals is not as important. But there's a lot of other factors there. Where most music is just a track and the voice. That's it. And this one, you have to write for much longer time, you have to put more instruments in. So musically, it's very different. And if you come from that culture and deal with all of them, the cello, the violin, individually, you appreciate it more when you hear them all as one unit. That's the real power of classical music. And in a lot of ways, sometimes classical music, certain things they've been proven. It's been proven to something like calm your heart rate. No question. Improve your short-term memory. Soothe babies when they're sleeping. Those things, most people are not going to debate. They're going to debate how much how big a difference in IQ it gives you and stuff like that. But they can't debate that. And I think for a lot of people, as we go into pop culture, classical music is sort of dying. And I definitely think it's important that it doesn't. And this wouldn't be a Neptunian channel if I didn't describe that. If I didn't really at least try to attempt to give my part back, to at least say, well, you should give it a look. Because when I was younger, I didn't like classical music either, I'm not going to lie to you. But I appreciated it more as I got more mature. And I have to admit, it helped open me up to new things. And as it helped open me up to new things, as a person, I don't create music myself. But I appreciate it. And nothing helped me appreciate artists, composers, more than classical music. So when you talk about musical geniuses, look at the descriptions I give for the three gentlemen who I think are the foundation for classical music, and tell me you go to any other genre and anyone can match that. If they can, more power to you. Write me and let me know. Show them in their resume, because in this channel, what I want to do is, nobody knows everything, and I do. If you got a musical style I don't know about, write me and put me on. I look for new musical styles all the time. If you got independent flicks that you think is great, let me know. If there's a comic, particularly digital comics, independent comics, Marvel, DC, I kind of know. Independent comics, digital comics, let me know. I'm open to all new possibilities, and that's what Neptune's supposed to be. So, classical music is something that I don't think gets appreciated. And there's a lot of alchemical principles with classical music. That's why you would always find a link between initiates and classical and this type of music. That's not an accident. So, hope this helps. Till next time.